Hi everyone, it's Kat. I wanted to start you off here with some basic Excel formatting tips and tricks today. So what I've got here is we've got a city, state, the number of trips, and the number of miles driven on each trip within each city and state. So if your manager asks you to create a chart or a view for a PowerPoint presentation, for example, we need to make this look a little bit better. So the first thing we're going to do is adjust the column widths. You can see that the city of San Francisco is not quite showing all the way through. So what you can do here is you can put your cursor right in between both columns until you get the two arrows. You can click and drag. Now that's plenty of space, but we really don't need that much. So what you can do is you click or you put your mouse there again until you get the two arrows and you double click, and then it adjusts to just the right amount. One other thing that you might want to do is make the headers bold. You can click on one and you can make it bold. You can click on the next one and you can make it bold. Another thing you can do is highlight the entire row and make them all bold at the same time. Now we might want a total at the bottom, so we can add a total. We might want our total row to be formatted. Maybe we can make it a different color. We can make it bold. You could do the same thing with the header. You could make it a different color. One of the things that I like to do is get rid of the grid lines, all these checker boxes in the back. I like to remove those. So if you click on View, you can uncheck the grid lines and it makes the background nice and clean. You could also see this, the miles for 1,000, need to add a comma there. So if you go back to your Home tab, you can highlight these numbers, that you can click the comma button. Now it adds extra decimal places we don't need. You can click this to decrease the decimal spots, one and then another one. Makes it look a little bit better. A simple formula here to add up the number of trips. You can do equals sum, which is adding them all together, and you want to click and highlight all of the items that you want to add, end parenthesis, and then hit enter. Another way you could do that is, equals, and then click on them each individually, using the plus sign. Oops. You'll come up with the same number, but the sum formula might be easier to accomplish that. And if you want to, you can drag the formula over. You can either type it again or you can drag it over. In this case, we'll just drag it over. It didn't put the comma in there anymore, so you can reformat that to add the comma. And then if I want to add, a total over here. So I want to know by how many trips I did. For example, Phoenix, you did 4 trips, 40 miles each trip. How many miles did you drive in Phoenix? So we want another column over here. What we can do is we can highlight all of these for formatting. We like the formatting of this row. You can click the brush icon, which it formats. It's a format painter. So then you highlight the same cells, just one row over, and it's going to format it the same. So again, we want the number of trips times the number of miles to get to the total. Now I'm going to do Control C and I'm going to copy this formula, paste the formulas all the way down. But if you add together all of these, down at the bottom you get 4,335. But you can see since I copied the formula down, if I'm multiplying the total trips by the total miles, you get way more, which is not accurate. So what we want to do in this case, I mean, we could add up the miles here for the number of trips times the number of miles, you add them all together, but that's also a sum product function. So we'll try our sum product. Sum is the addition, product is the multiplication. So it wants the first array. So you want to take the trips, you click and drag down, you separate them by a comma, and then you want it to be multiplied by the miles. Do an end parenthesis, hit enter, and there you've got the 4,335, which is the correct answer for the total number of miles driven per trip for each of these cities and states. I know this was pretty basic. If you've learned something here, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. In some of my future videos, we go into creating pivot tables and also a more complex way to use the sum product function as more of a lookup. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks, everyone.